Hey everybody, welcome back to the basement. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be checking out not one, not two, but three F19 Pacifics fresh in from Lionel right here on Chris's Trains and Things. Let's go. All right, before we get started, the F19 is such a super cool locomotive, and I honestly didn't think I was going to add one of these into my collection. After Christmas, we had moved some things around. I had some money to work with and decided I'm going to go ahead and add one of these to my collection. Now, I did that after my buddy RJ posted his video of his Rfmp F19 on his channel, RJ's Trains. And he's got the same one that I have here, the Rfmp version with the blue Russian iron boiler. And he does a great job diving into the Rfmp. It's one of his favorite railroads. I don't have any Rfmp in my collection until now. After seeing his, I decided why not? I have the money to do it. So I pulled the trigger and ended up buying one of these for myself. Now, before I had done that, my buddy Chris from the Lower Susquehanna Valley Modular Railroad Club stopped by, and he dropped off two of the F19s that he had ordered. We have the Halloween version back here, and then the Christmas Sleigh Bell Limited version over here behind my Rfmp version. So we're going to check out all three of these F19s. They're all decoed in a different way, and the Halloween version features that Vanderbilt tender, which is an inch longer than the Berkshire tender that we're going to have on the Rfmp version. So we get to see this in a couple different schemes that it was cataloged with. We're going to get to hear all three of them, and then we're going to run them around the layout here together. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, here we go. So this is, again, the Rfmp F19 Pacific. The Pacific was a 462 wheeler range locomotive, like you see here. I had a previous Pacific in my collection. It was the New York Central Pacific that came with the 1926 Cardinal set. A great set that I sold at York, and I no longer have my collection, so it's nice to add another Pacific into my fleet. Now, Lionel cataloged in the 2023 volume 2 catalog, I do believe, and it took a long time for these to finally arrive. Apparently they were delivered, and then there was some sort of deco issue with them, so Lionel sent them back to the factory, and they were finally delivered here just after Christmas in 2024. So that was disappointing for a lot of people, mainly if you had the Halloween version or the Christmas version. You would have wanted to run those for those holidays, and you just missed them, so that was a bit of a bummer. But these are really nice looking locomotives. Now that they've come in, Lionel fixed the deco issues that they had. Now, the Rfmp version looks slightly different than it did in the catalog rendering. My buddy RJ covers this all in his video, so I don't really need to rehash it too much. But the boiler in the rendering is much darker. But if you look at real photos of locomotives with the Russian iron blue, it really depends on what color the sky was. We've talked about that with the Erie triplex and all that color stuff. So I'm not going to dive more into that now. Now, they cataloged a bunch of Chesapeake and Ohio versions. In fact, when we look at the catalog itself, there were 12 total versions of these that were made. The only ones that were not made for the C&O were the Sleigh Bell Limited, the Halloween version, a Pure Marquette, and the version that you see right here in front of you for the Rfmp. Now, the famous train for the C&O that was pulled by the F19 would have been the George Washington. The George Washington was a passenger service run by the Chesapeake and Ohio between Cincinnati and Washington, D.C., as well as a branch off into Louisville, Kentucky. So they also cataloged the passenger cars to go along with this locomotive if you wanted to create that full train. I actually had a thought of doing that originally, and then I decided not to, and then at York, Grzybowski's had the older version of the George Washington passenger cars available, and that really tempted me to go ahead and buy them and then buy the Chesapeake and Ohio version. I don't have any C&O stuff in my collection, but alas, I decided to hold off and not purchase any of those things, and then now I've decided to go with the Rfmp version, which is just a little bit different, more unique, I think, than the C&O versions, and I'm really happy that I did. Now, it's been a long time since Lionel cataloged the F19. I did a little bit of digging, and the last one that I could find on the website pops up during the TMCC days. I believe it was cataloged back in 2007, so almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago was the last time that I found that this was cataloged. Then it might have been since then, but I really don't think there was a legacy version of this locomotive that's been released. Now, back in 2007, that TMCC version, that retailed for $1159.99. Today, these MSRP'd for $1299.99. So really not a bad price increase considering $1,159 in today's money is about $1,800 when we use the inflation calculator. So really not a bad increase in price for a cool little locomotive like this F19 Pacific. Now, these locomotives feature full legacy sounds. They're going to have whistle steam as well, and then you're going to have stack steam. There is the controls underneath the sand dome, so you can pop this off to access your controls, which is nice. No more flipping those locomotives upside down. I've got the Lionel sensor track, so I can just drive it over the sensor track to program it into my legacy remote. Now, if we pan over this way a little bit, you'll see the Halloween version. The Halloween version here features the Vanderbilt tender. So this tender is an inch longer than the other traditional Berkshire tender that the Rfmp version and the Sleigh Bell Limited version come with. It does not change your overall tracking on this locomotive. It still operates on 054 curves. It just goes from 24 inches to 25 inches with the Vanderbilt tender. Now, the Halloween version came out really, really well. It's got these really cool smoky, ghosty figures on the tender here. We've got the spots on the cab, as well as the different accents of cobwebs and bats and so forth. And I just think this thing looks really, really cool. I love the Vanderbilt tender. It's super heavy compared to, it just feels a lot heavier, I think, than the Berkshire tender does, whether that's just, my head and not reality, who's to tell. I'm not going to get the scale out for today, but a really cool tender. I don't have any Vanderbilt tenders in my collection, and that was the reason why I was hesitant to go with the Rfmp version, because it doesn't come with the Vanderbilt tender. But one day I'll have a Vanderbilt tender in my collection. Today is just not that day. So very cool locomotives. We're going to look at all three of them and listen to them all. So let's go ahead and fire up the Halloween version first and hear all the cool spooky sounds that come with it.
We must leave. This I command. Finally, we shall depart.
Your patience is rewarded, master.
If the way is clear for us, then we shall prevail.
All right, and now we've got the Sleigh Bell Limited version here. Let's go ahead and listen to this.
Let's get this engine fired up. We have lots of presents to deliver. Who wouldn't go? Me. Still waiting on that green light, North Pole. This train hauls faster than my reindeer. Comet would be jealous. Well, jingle my bells. It's almost Christmas.
All right, and let's listen to the F19 Rfmp version.
Train 1 brakeman. Let's get an application for continuity test.
Ah, good old Mr. Lionel.
Good application. Okay, to release. Train 1 brakeman. We have good set, good release, good continuity on timetable train number 1. Over.
Roger. Good set, good release, good continuity on timetable train number 1. Out.
Whistle 1. Whistle 2. Whistle 3. Whistle 4. And whistle 5.
Dispatcher, ready to roll. Can I pull? Over.
Hold for track orders. Dispatcher out.
we have some of the new Erie Limited wood-sided passenger cars. These are obviously the Halloween version, but these open vestibules here, or closed vestibules rather, are just fantastic. The detailing on these is just great. These are probably some of the nicest Halloween decoed cars I've seen. I mean, the wood-sided cars in general are super nice, it's a great tooling, but the vestibules on the ends are just so nice. I am blown away by how nice these came out. So we're gonna run them behind the Halloween F19. Spiderweb. Yeah. Do you think it's cool?
Mm-hmm. Wow! I wish mine was here.
If the way is clear for us, then we shall prevail.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining in on today's video. I hope you appreciated this one. Which one's your favorite, and would you add one of these to your collection? And maybe it's not one of the ones that we have here, but one of the many C&O versions that Lionel cataloged. Now, before we go, we're going to jump into a new segment of Viewer Mail. Let's check it out. All right, so we had a viewer, Carl. He sent me an email right around the holidays after my year in review time, and he said, "Dear Chris, I hope this email finds you well. Happy New Year." Happy New Year to you too, Carl. He said, "I had a question about your collection and was hoping you'd be able to answer it. What is your white whale engine or part of rolling stock that you've been chasing for a while? As a follow-up, if you found it, what would it take for you to pass it up? Thank you for your time." Well, Carl, thank you for taking the time to shoot us an email. If you have a question like Carl's, you can email us at CTATViewerMail@gmail.com. You can also share some photos of your own layout collection or a video, and we can show it here on the channel to all of our viewers. Now, that's a great question. What is my white whale engine? Well, Carl and viewers, my white whale engine is the MTH BR44. It is a locomotive that was produced by MTH many years ago, and they have since sold the tooling for it. It's a German locomotive, black boiler, red frame and wheels, drive wheels. That's the one that I want. The Brownings have it in Detroit. I've seen it there. I've never seen one for sale in person. They pop up every now and again, and they usually go for a lot of money.
Henrik, wir müssen rechts raus. Schon wieder eine Überholung? Sieht so aus. Mann, mit dem Zug brauchen wir nachher ewig, bis wir wieder in Fahrt kommen. Dann musst du halt ordentlich Dampf kochen. Ja, wird sich schon einheizen.
So that's my number one white whale. I just think it's such a cool looking locomotive. They're incredibly difficult to find, though. I don't anticipate that I'll ever have one in my collection. The other one that I would really love to have is Strasbourg 475. That was done by Third Rail many years ago. Again, another engine that's very, very difficult to come by. But what would it take for me to pass it up? It would just be the cost. I mean, sometimes these things are marked up for astronomical prices, and I just have to be realistic with the amount of money that I'm spending on my hobby at this point in my life. So, you know, it really depends on if I had the money available to spend. If I was in a spot where I don't have funds available to buy it, I would have to pass it up at that point. You know, it would be something that I couldn't offload things quick enough for, right? So if I needed $1,000 or $2,000, do I have engines that I'm willing to part with that I know could sell really quickly and that I could then offload to pay for it? Then maybe I'd go for it. But if it's just way out of my price range, thousands of dollars, and it's just a bad time in where I'm at in my life, that would cause me to have to pass it up. But thank you so much for that comment, Carl. I appreciate it, that question. If you have a question, shoot us an email at our viewer mail email address, and maybe you'll be the next one featured here on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching today. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a great night.